Good morning, race fans. Welcome to another edition of It's a Sunny Day, the Knicks are in the playoffs finals, and F1 was a banger once again. Well, mostly. But we'll get into that. This weekend we had let me make sure I say it right. Formula 1 AWS Gran Premio del Made in Italy e dell'Emilia-Romagna 2025. Or, just Imola. And as you may or may not have heard, this might be our last ever race here. But I think what happened this weekend goes to show that F1 truly has no clue what viewers want. Hey, F1, can you take your eyes off Miami for a second? Yeah, the action is right here. This is what we want to see. This. So let's review how it all went down here at the Race Day Cafe. Also, if you couldn't tell already, I'm a little sick. So apologies for the horrid audio experience. Let's start by going over the news ahead of the race weekend. Earlier in the week, Max Verstappen took part in a GT3 test at the Nürburgring, and people noticed that the car said Franz Hermann because Max used a pseudonym to try to go undercover, but of course everyone noticed anyway because, it's Max Verstappen. And of course he broke the track record. Of course he did. Mind you, this man became a dad just 2 weeks ago. He had a week off work where he could have gone home and spent time with his wife and child, but instead said, no, fuck that, I'm gonna go racing. Like, racing isn't my day job. Insane. Another big talking point this weekend is that Carlos Sainz Sr., who is, of course, the father of Carlos Sainz Jr. and a rallying legend, is apparently considering running for president of the FIA. And oh boy, Mr. Sulayem is not happy about that. Allegedly, the current FIA president has already instated some measures to try to block Sainz from running, including a change to FIA statutes that says that new candidates can't have anything in their record that, quote, calls into question their professional integrity, which I'm sure is not worded really vaguely so it could be applied against Sainz because his son is an F1 driver. Surely not. But I could make an entire separate video on this situation because it's pretty interesting. So, if you'd like that, let me know. What else? F1 turned 75 years old. Happy birthday, you old pinnacle of motorsport. We love you. Even though sometimes you don't give us reasons to love you, but we love you. We do. Moving on to the race weekend, and Kimi Antonelli, who is experiencing his first ever home race in Formula 1, brought his entire high school class with him and showed them the paddock and the Mercedes motorhome. Imagine being in the same class as a Formula 1 driver, man. I would be insufferable about it. Practice overall was pretty standard, although both FP1 and FP2 ended with red flags because of crashes. And the Ferrari drivers both complained about the brakes. The relationship on track between Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton so far has been rocky to say the least, so when they're both complaining about the same issue, it's bad. Also, there was this great radio from Max about how he had a nut in his car. I guess there was some small loose object that was rattling around inside his cockpit and he was bothered by it. But him calling it a nut, the jokes write themselves. We get to qualifying on Saturday and oh my god, what a session! Let me tell you a little story. My brother is a huge fan of F1 and he's been a fan for longer than I have, and he's a big part of the reason I'm also a fan. And he never watches all of qualifying because he says, quote, you really only need to watch the last 5 minutes of Q3. Well, my dear brother, I think this session would have proven that statement wrong. Because the action in this Q1 and Q2 was... First of all, in Q1, Yuki Tsunoda had a gnarly crash off the Villeneuve chicane, really similar to Zhou Guanyu's crash in Silverstone 2022. We've said it before and we'll say it again. Thank you, Halo. You're ugly as fuck, but you actually save people's lives, so we gotta love you. And then the session ended with another crash, this time from Franco Colapinto in his first qualifying back in Formula 1. And the fact that it was in Tamburello right next to all the Senna flags did not help at all. So the session got red flag, and then the start of Q2 got extremely delayed because the FIA took forever to decide whether or not to count Ollie Behrman's last lap. Ultimately, they didn't count it, so Behrman was out in Q1 and Gabriel Bortoleto was in Q2. But of course, the FIA chose to tell no one about it, so we just had to figure it out. It was really funny because we saw Gabriel just rolling out into the pit lane, and I thought it was some sort of pressure tactic to the FIA. Yes, Gabby is that bitch. So then Q2 happened, and the result could not have been better. Both Ferraris and Antonelli out. At home, Sainz topped the session, and both Aston Martins into Q3. Is it my birthday or something? Viva España, coño! And then Q3 was not that interesting in comparison. Piastri got pole, followed by Verstappen, Russell, and Norris. But then in P5, El Padre. This must have been the first time in the last 3 years that Aston Martin brings improvements to the car, and they actually improved the car. And on mediums! Alonso got P5 on mediums! It's a miracle! Okay, now let's get into the race. Can Oscar Piastri secure his lead and equal Senna's record of 4 consecutive wins with McLaren? Lights out and away we go, and oh my god, Verstappen has a stinker of a start. Oh, Piastri's definitely gonna win this race now. Oh wait, what? Verstappen overtook Piastri magically on the first chicane? Oh. You know what? Maybe it's better if Ayrton Senna's records are not equaled or beaten. I think it's cool that there's things that he did that still haven't been bested. So, you know what? If Piastri doesn't win this race, it's actually okay. It's actually better, actually. So, it's all good. It's all fine. Everything's fine. I do have to admit that Verstappen's overtake was really classy, though. Red Bull asked him, "Hey, how late do you want to be on the brakes?" And he said, "Yes." Leclerc and Gasly have a little battle, and for 5 seconds, Gasly turns into a World Rally Championship driver. On lap 11, Norris overtakes Russell, and then the lap after that, Russell goes into the pits, alongside Carlos Sainz. Mind you, this is lap 12 of 63, so clearly, some teams are trying to go for a 2-stop strategy. Well, this is great. This is so interesting. It'll give us a lot more action. Surely every other team will pit soon and we'll all be on a 2-stop strategy. And this won't affect negatively any of the drivers who are trying it, right? Right? This moment was also clearly foreshadowing the beginning of the end for Aston Martin, because both Aston Martins pit at this time, and when Alonso came out of the pits, he had fire coming out of his tires. Damn, he's really not beating the grid villain allegations. And crucially, Oscar Piastri also pit at this time while his teammates stayed out, and his pit stop was really bad, which caused him to lose a lot of time to Max, who did not pit and was going for a 1-stop. So Piastri had to climb his way back up the grid, and at one point when he reached Yuki Tsunoda, Red Bull asked Tsunoda to fend off Piastri so that he would lose time against Max. And Piastri said, "Yeah, nice try," and overtook Tsunoda in one go. Then on lap 29, Norris pit again, and the lap immediately after that, we get a virtual safety car, because Ocon has now stopped in the grass due to some car issue. Damn, that's unlucky for Lando, but not for Max, who gets a free pit stop. And Oscar also pits, but once again, it's absolute ass. My man could not catch a break today. And basically everybody else pit, because it's the reasonable thing to do, except, of course, the Aston Martins. So now Alonso, in his old-ass tires, is getting overtaken easily by Nico Hülkenberg in a Sauber. Jesus Lord, please end my suffering. And now is when the race gets spicy, because Kimi Antonelli also stops in the grass, and a safety car is released, which was, you guessed it, another free opportunity for Max to pit. And this safety car lasted forever, so practically every other driver also pit, including the Astons. Thank God. The safety car ends, and Max has a very clean start, gets away, and we see Alex Albon and Charles Leclerc fighting for P4. Now, we're almost at the end of the race, so this is where the drivers have to bring out the moves. And so we see Lando Norris doing a really clean overtake on Oscar Piastri, and Albon almost overtakes Leclerc with a bold move, but he goes into the gravel, and so Hamilton is now in P4. It's insane. He started P12. The Albon-Leclerc battle continues, and Albon eventually gets through, but it seems like Charles let him through because the team asked him to avoid a penalty. Oh well, the clown team will do clown things. So the race ends, and of course, Max Verstappen wins, with Norris P2 and Piastri P3. The Dutch anthem plays, and everyone is singing. Nature is healing. So that was the race. Now let's talk about my superlatives. This week's ace of the race is naturally Max Verstappen. This race was like magically engineered for Verstappen. It was ridiculous. It's like the planets aligned so that everything would work perfectly for him. First, he looks like he has a bad exit, but then he magically overtakes Piastri. Then when everybody tried the two-stop in lap 12, his mediums were holding just fine, so he didn't bother with that. Because when he did need to pit, a VSC magically appeared for him, and then later on he got another great opportunity with the second safety car. And not only that, but also his rival strategies, namely Piastri's, were shit, so he didn't have to worry about anybody else overtaking him. This is genuinely another level of divine intervention. But you know what? Good for Max. He drove a great race and he deserved the win for sure. Honorable mention for ace of the race goes to Alex Albon. I could say Williams in general, but Albon especially cooked this weekend. He qualified really well and had a brilliant race, and if it hadn't been for that little mistake with the Ferraris, I seriously think he could have gotten a podium. I still can't believe y'all ever doubted this man last year when Colapinto came in. Shame on you. This week's disgrace of the race goes to Haas. This team was absolutely nowhere this weekend. Haas is in a really weird position this year because their performances so far have been the definition of hit or miss. They either do an amazing job and are safely in the points, or they're an absolute disaster and they're the last two cars. And this weekend was definitely one of the latter. And of course, with the Ocon DNF and Behrman clearly struggling with some issues in the car as well, just a really underwhelming performance from them. Honorable mention for disgrace of the race goes to Ferrari because I just think it's really funny that they both got out-qualified by Lance Stroll. I'm sorry, it's just really embarrassing. This week's strategy disaster class goes to Aston Martin. Oh boy, I'm about to go off on this team. This pissed me off to an extent beyond human comprehension. This team qualified P5 and P8. They brought improvements to the car that actually worked, and they maintained their position so well in the beginning. How on earth did they fuck up their strategy so bad? My guess is that they saw a couple of other drivers pitting in lap 12 and they said, oh, it's going to be a two-stopper. Come on in. But I think they should have either waited a little bit to see how their tires did, or they should have tried a split strategy like the other teams were doing. In McLaren, only Piastri tried the two-stopper. In Williams, only Sainz tried the two-stopper. In Ferrari, only Leclerc tried the two-stopper. Aston Martin sent both drivers into the pit, which was obviously not going to work out when it's not clear whether or not it'll be a one-stop or a two-stop race. And then I understand why they didn't want to pit during the virtual safety car because they had just gotten hard tires like not that long ago. But did they not see everybody else pitting around them? Did they not think that that might threaten their positions eventually? Anyway, the way this team operates continues to mystify me. Hopefully in Monaco and Spain they'll do a little better since they're also bringing more updates. Please Aston, do not fuck this up for me again or it's on site. This week's underdog shoutout goes to Aston Martin. Yes, I know I just bashed them for their poor race performance, but that quali was so good. That alone earned them this spot. Thank you for getting all of Spain excited again after the most dumpster fire season so far. For my favorite team radio, I was low-key worried most of the race because all of the radios were so boring until my man Alonso came through with this all-time banger. I just need you to hear his delivery. I couldn't do it justice.
It's gonna be a torture. It's like a luckiest driver in the world.
I think this deserves to become a legendary radio like 5 Seconds is a Joke or GP2 Engine. Please free this man from the horrors. I also think that radio is enough to qualify him for a drama queen crown. Congratulations. The best moment of the weekend for me was the Alonso P5. I think I've made that very clear by now. But also low-key, I enjoyed seeing race control being normal for once and not biased as hell or extremely punitive for no reason. You could tell that the stewards were mostly Italians because they were going like, oh, there's been an incident? Nah, I don't want to do extra work. No further investigation. That's very Southern European of them, and I respect it. The worst moment of the weekend, besides Aston Martin's fuck-up, was probably seeing Antonelli DNFing in his first and probably only home race ever. Sure, he'll have Monza, but this is much closer to home for him. I feel like he deserved a little moment of glory, even if that was finishing P6 or something. Anything was better than DNFing. But, well, at least he was there, he got to enjoy it for what it was, and that's something, right? I don't know. Overall, this race gets a 4 out of 5 stars from me. Would have been a 5 if Aston Martin hadn't... Okay, sorry, I'll shut up about that now. But I do think that the use of the C6 tires actually made this race a lot more interesting than it probably would have been with the usual tires. Like maybe the C6 tires themselves weren't great according to the drivers, but because the other two compounds were also softer, it led the teams to gamble with the one-stop versus two-stop, which created a lot of chaos on track. And what do fans want if not chaos? So yeah, maybe Pirelli can have some rights after this. Finally, let's review my yearly prediction bingo. Of course, Colapinto replaced Doohan, which was announced a couple weeks ago. And in Miami, we got the team orders cringe fail, courtesy of Ferrari. We almost got a double DNF with Haas because I was so sure that Behrman was going to retire his car. But no, it ended up just being a regular pit stop. We got bamboozled. So that's all for the Imola Grand Prix. Thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe. And I want to hear your thoughts. What did you think of the race? Are you jealous of Antonelli's classmates? Because I'm really jealous. Thank you so much for watching. Stay fueled, and I'll see you in the next race day.